Electricast.
Big Truth, Episode 1, starting over. Let's do this.
Big hope, big hurts, big chances.
Big truth, big dreams, big goals, big consequences.
Big truth,
big love, big lies, big choices.
Big Truth with Pastor Julie Norwood Cooper.
Hope you're having a great day because, it's a great day to have a great day. How does it feel to move? Like pick up everything, and just start all over. It feels awkward and it feels unfamiliar and it feels strange, but yet at the same time, it feels good. It feels freeing to start over and just kind of rebuild some things and do some things differently. But honestly, change can be difficult. There's some typical responses that come when we are encountering change. We either run from it, we deny it, we avoid it, or we embrace it. And I have learned that the latter response of embracing change really does benefit me the most. It'll cause me to face my fears and trust myself and God that He is with me and that we're going somewhere that is unfamiliar to me. And that's okay. So when you're going to relocate or start over, I think the most valuable lesson is learning from what you've experienced. Take advantage of the opportunity that you can be successful as you start over because there are other people who succeeded. Starting over actually puts you in a vantage point to look for opportunities for change and gifts you with this wonderful thing of starting from scratch, like a clean slate. And if we're honest and take a personal inventory, there are some things that just really weren't working in our life and we need to just start over. Or maybe that's just me. But when you start over, it's a learning experience, right? And so you do look for those opportunities to reinvent yourself, to change some things up, to stop some things, and to start some things. Clean up where you are, though. You got to clean up where you are because your mess follows you. Just because you decide that you're going to start over or you move, change addresses, your mess, what I'm talking about, those things kind of just go with you. And so you really want to take inventory of where you are. As you're doing that, make peace in your reflection of what you have and what you've been through. Be grateful for all of the experiences, the good, the bad, and the not so good, and be truthful about it. You got to accept the past. It is what it is. My friend Bone Hampton says, it is what it is. And that's true. You got to be willing to let go. And I like to say, let go and let God. We're talking about starting over on Big Truth, Episode 1 today. And one thing that you can do when you start over is revisit goals and your values. While you're doing this, take stock of your talents, your skills, your resources, your experiences. One day I was taking notes in my phone, which I do regularly. And I was sitting there kind of feeling a little bit insecure about where I was in life and wondering how I could get somewhere else. And I had this thought, what am I an expert at? I know like an expert maybe has a wrong connotation attached to it, but what do you have experience in? And I started making this list. And it doesn't have to be like rocket science things. It's everyday living. You are an expert at your own life. So I started my list. Well, I'm an expert at being a woman, being a mom, being an employee, being a pastor, being an employer, etc., etc. And then I went to the things that I didn't do so well, the things that I had hiccups with and, didn't work out. I'm also an expert at that. And so that's a great way to take inventory and stock of your life, including your talents, your skills, and your resources, because you got all of that under your belt. Doesn't mean you stop growing. It just means you've got this and you're going to go from where you are right now. This is important when you start over. Decide what you want next. Create your tomorrow. It may not look like it in the present, and maybe it hasn't happened in the past, but none of that indicates that it won't happen. So decide what you want next and then figure out the steps that you need to get to where you want to go. Sounds easy, doesn't it? It's also challenging, but it's exciting. So I was talking to a friend via text messaging about living in my new location. They asked me a question. The question is, are you having fun in the sun. And I live in California, right? Who doesn't have fun in the sun? My response to that was, I love the sun, and most days I do have fun. Then I commented that my life had really changed in dramatic ways. And they said, good ways, I hope. And I said, absolutely. But there are some times when I go through grieving. They asked why grieving, and I said, because I'm suffering a loss of familiarity, a loss of familiar faces and routine, responsibilities, and the way that life used to be. And I think that's normal in some regards when we have a starting over experience, and we have to go through those emotional things that are attached. But one thing is for sure, you have to be courageous, and you have to start where you are right now. I can tell you this because I've done it. I've looked backward. I've looked back, and I've longed back. I've longed for the way things used to be, even though I wasn't like entirely in love with everything that was going on before I started over. But yet it's kind of the nature of our humanness to long for things. And one day I just decided that I need to start with right now and look forward. Immerse myself deeply into the now and take advantage of the opportunity that I have. And I hope that helps you too. It's okay to look back. You know, the rear view mirror is smaller than the front window of the car for a reason, because you got to see where you're going. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to look in the rear view mirror. In fact, when I've been driving on the highway across Wyoming, I would drive and it would be so mundane and boring, and I would glance in my rearview mirror and see this beautiful sky, and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize I saw it when I was driving through it. So there are some things that look so much better in the rearview mirror than when you're going through it. Maybe that's because we didn't fully immerse ourselves into what we were going through at that moment. So as you relocate, as you start over, what a great opportunity to be fully committed to immersing yourself into the here and the now, not looking backward, not longing backward, but being present every single day, showing up in your life. I have learned in my relocation starting over season, it takes time. If you're impatient, like I tend to be, this is going to frustrate the beeswax out of you. Because you want it to happen, but it takes time. You have to have patience. You have to exercise the season of starting over, which oftentimes is accompanied with waiting. So if you can just push through that waiting season, God has a way of making sure everything works out for you. But it takes time. It takes time to meet people. It takes time to learn where you're going. It takes time for all kinds of things. Some things just can't be rushed. You have to do them over and over, establish a new routine, and just allow life to happen and not try to force it to happen because you don't want to wait, because you're impatient. I saw a post on Instagram that said, you have no idea what God has prepared for you, so stop trying to plan everything yourself and trust God. There's so much value in that, and peace of mind. As I said earlier, you've got to trust yourself and you've got to trust God and allow life to just happen. When you start over, don't forget a whole new attitude. Maybe it means gaining a fresh new perspective. Break free from those limitations that maybe you erected for yourself or other people did. Look at things from a new perspective. Limitations aren't necessarily things that prevented you from doing something, but if you dig deeper, you'll find that perhaps limitations are the things that keep you constrained inside a loop. Break free of that right now. You're starting over. Get a whole new perspective and go a new way, a different way, a better way. You know, I knew that I was ready to go somewhere else. I was okay with going somewhere else. But then after I got to this new place, I realized, oh my goodness, I have to sort through all of these emotions of where I am now, where I thought I was going to be, which equates to expectations. And then I have to deal with my memories. And I think our memories always deceive us a little bit. They don't tell us the entire truth. If we're honest, maybe we can admit that our memories tell us what we want the situation or the person to be. We don't really remember the reality of it. And so then you have to work through those emotions of memories. I'm not saying saying that memories or expectations are negative in any way. They can be very positive, and they can give you energy and life and hope for a different future. Speaking of that, there's this new horizon. Yeah, when you relocate, when you change some things up, there's this new vision, this fresh opportunity, like a clean slate for you to create some things that maybe you've wanted to do in the past and you just haven't had the time, energy, or strategy or know-how. Maybe you didn't even have the audience to do those things. It's an open door. It's a clean slate. If I could tell you one more thing, it would be to be mindful about bringing the old into the new. Remember, it's a new season. You're starting over. So don't just bring everything with you because it's comfortable. Step out in faith and embrace the new. So a decision to start over is a huge decision. So first of all, kudos to you for being courageous and strong in making that decision. It doesn't necessarily mean that you failed at whatever it was that you were doing. Maybe for your own sanity and your own mental health, emotional well-being, you just need to start over. Don't let anybody talk you out of that. Listen, you are the pilot. There's nobody in your life that has greater power over yourself than God. So if you're feeling like you want to start over, follow that through and see where it leads you. Starting over can be scary, but it's like taking a calculated risk. You know, if you keep doing the same thing that you're doing and you don't change anything or start over, it's probably not going to end any differently than it has up to this point. Hey, in all of this starting over stuff, don't forget to believe in yourself. Even if the past hasn't been that great, give yourself grace and be on your team. When nobody else believes in you except Jesus, you have to believe in you, with the understanding that you're not perfect, nor will you ever be. But humility goes a long way, and giving yourself grace and being on your team is so vital to you having a successful restart and redo. There were times, maybe there still are times, that I have to talk to myself. I have to change the narrative from fear and insecurity to faith to encourage myself. And I just have to tell myself, Julie, if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you other than the Lord? You've got to believe in yourself. That everything that you've lived through, you've survived, you've excelled at, you've experienced, has brought you to this point. So you got to go forward. You got to trust yourself. You got to trust the Lord that there's something better for you. All right, we're going to land this first episode about change. Change is uncomfortable. Discomfort is necessary because what you leave is supposed to be left behind. That's part of growing. Remember that crabs outgrow their shells because that was what God intended. Change isn't comfortable, but it is necessary. So fasten your seatbelt, hold on for the ride called change. Always believe in yourself and ask God to help you because God loves you and He has an awesome plan for your life. Until next time, be sure to share this podcast with someone else, please, and thank you. God bless you and live big truth.
Hi, everyone. I'm Geraldine Glass, a leader in the field of music as medicine, and I'm excited to share with you my newest release of healing sound, Pentatonic Visions, with Chris Scholler and Electrocast Records. Immerse yourself in ethereal realms where the harmonies of nature, tribal rhythms, and soundscapes blend with the crystal singing bowls. It's out now, streaming on all platforms.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electrocast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electrocast.